In this lesson, we'll continue discussing appropriate aspects that must be considered in order to develop an appropriate IT security policy implementation for an organization. In this lesson, we'll focus our attention first on understanding policy language. The purpose of policy language is to ensure that the organization has an appropriate legal contract in place and that the parties involved with it are able to provide concrete and constructive language that lays out the appropriate security policies. It's important to keep in mind that policy language and writing policies is used in order to support an agreed upon target state. So this ensures that things are easier to access and you have better mechanisms in place to get appropriate supporting policy language. So it's important to keep in mind that a number of things want to be in place for clear and consistent policy language. You want to ensure that it creates a clear and concise policy language that's understood by all involved. You want to be sure to avoid imprecise language such as should. You want to be sure to assign clear accountability to specific roles, and you want to state the specific resources covered by the policy, and you want to be sure to avoid requiring use of specific products. And so that means that you don't want to use imprecise language such as should or expected. You want to ensure that the policy is clear and provides clear statements. For example, if your policy has requirements for password, then it should clearly state that any user must use an 8-character or more password. And so this is important. The language helps to assign appropriate accountability to specific roles. And that can be important because we can't assume at some point or time that the policy will always be understood. But if we have clear policy language, then we can make sure that that's the case. And so we'll also want to make sure that appropriate resources are covered, and we want to shy away from requiring specific products to be involved within a policy. Essentially, what we want is for our policies to focus on the needs that need to be achieved. And so this can include encrypting file systems as well. The key point that we want to keep in mind is that there is a clear agreement on the target state. And so this means we want to use precise components that are in agreement for supporting language. And so when we write our policy, we want to use precise language that can clearly define the outcome and assigns appropriate accountability. So there are some different components that should be considered when it comes to employee awareness and training. First, we need to keep in mind that the goal of employee awareness and training is to ensure that we have appropriate individuals that have the requisite knowledge and skills required to support and implement appropriate security policies. So therefore, we want the primary objective of our security awareness programs to focus on educating users. And education can be from providing them with the necessary tools to minimize security risks, as well as appropriate strategies for reporting security risk. And so some of the benefits that can come with employee awareness and training include reinforcing core organizational values, giving management an opportunity to demonstrate support, as well as creating opportunities for employees to acquire new skills and through the acquirement of new skills, this can lead to increased job satisfaction. And so awareness can involve teaching those employees about the policies and those core security concepts. And so we want to ensure that we have opportunities for employees to acquire those new skills and that we continue to reinforce core organizational values and that we provide an opportunity for management to demonstrate and support as well. And so there are different factors that come into play with this, and that we want awareness to be in place to help increase understanding of the importance and value of security policies, and the training to be in place to provide the skills necessary to support appropriate security policies. With this in mind, we need to keep in mind that awareness is a ongoing component of security policies. So it should be a ongoing effort to reinforce security policies. In addition, we also want to ensure that employees are motivated in the way that they're able to communicate. And when we want them to be motivated, ideally we want them to be able to inspire and encourage as well as train others. And so individual motivation within a company can vary. And so one clear motivation will always be self-interest. And so when it comes to motivation in our IT security policy, we want to ensure that management holds users accountable for failing to follow policies, that we have effective security policy implementations in place that are dependent upon acceptance, that acceptance depends on the individuals who perceive value in the policy, that we have ultimate acceptance depends on the value being demonstrated by lower risk to the organizations, and that we have security awareness and training in place to provide an opportunity that enables users to communicate value and allows users to be more motivated. And so it's important that management rigorously enforce these security policies. This ensures that users are held accountable and that they are aware of the seriousness of supporting and implementing appropriate security policies. This can be important because untrained or unmotivated employees can often make poor decisions that can expose the security of the organization. And so poor decisions can lead to security incidents that can occur, and these incidents can also affect individuals that are motivated. So even the individuals that are trained can be affected by the decisions that have been made by untrained or poor individuals. And so the key here is to ensure that decisions occur within the organization and that users don't fall prey to social engineering pretexts. And so a user can fail to report a weakness, and then management can fail to act as well. So therefore, regardless of these types of failure, there is going to be a danger that policies will be perceived as ineffective when security incidents rise. So the key point of having an effective security policy implementation is going to rely on having users within the organization that are motivated and accepting. So acceptance ensures that the policy has value And as long as something has value within an organization, it will be upheld. Other things that we have to take into consideration is ensuring that we have appropriate network access control. And so we want to have appropriate network access control in place so that if we have new employees and contractors, that they have access at time of hire before access to data is granted. We want to have appropriate policies in place for promotions that might occur. So therefore, if a promotion does occur, all individuals are promoted into significantly different roles. We'll have annual refresher training that applies to all users. We'll also have post-incident control training, and this will occur after major incidents have occurred. And then we'll also have vendor network access, and this means that a vendor will have appropriate access as it's defined for them. There are various things that can be done, and as well as to conduct security awareness training sessions. And the goal of any formal security awareness training is to allow for all stakeholders to gain the necessary knowledge and skills that are needed for them to perform their job responsibilities in a manner that ensures compliance with security policies and protects all appropriate assets within the organization. So therefore, security training and security awareness is important because it helps to keep the organization safe so that workers are able to apply their knowledge in a safe environment. There are various ways to deliver security awareness training. One common way is by conducting a computer-based training as well. So it can be classroom training or computer-based. And the benefit of this is that we want to gather effective feedback. And so many large organizations will use a combination of both classroom as well as computer-based training. And using these techniques, you want to ensure that we're able to understand appropriate policies and that information is disseminated amongst all users in an effective manner so that they can support the security policies of the organization. So within a classroom setting, we need to make sure that we have a trained instructor that is able to discuss the security training policy, and then the instructor will deliver the content in a flexible manner. And so there can be some benefits as well as downsides to classroom setting. The first, of course, is going to be the cost, as classroom sessions can become expensive based off of facility and travel costs as well. And then you could also have conference rooms cost as well. One important approach to make sure that is carried out is to ensure that feedback is gathered effectively from the group. And so that can be through appropriate surveys after the session, through focus groups, through interviews of attendees, as well as exit interviews of individuals leaving the company as well. And in this case, we want to ensure that we're monitoring for appropriate compliance through incident support reports that have been provided. Additionally, human resources also plays an important role in helping facilitate security policies. Specifically, human resources have ownership over new employee orientation. And so new employees will often be reached through the Human Resources Department, and the HR department will manage the onboarding of new employees. So this means that human resources is going to make use of an array of various documents and resources that new employees and new hires must complete. These include gathering benefits as well as badging that can occur. And so this allows for HR to provide a series of training sessions that can be used to help new employees ease into an organization's culture. And so most organizations will add security awareness training to the list of terms that the HR department can provide for new employees to use. The benefits of this is that it's cost efficient because it's going to simply add new material to new employee training for HR products. You don't have to also pull new employee information offline in separate training sessions. So that's what makes it beneficial as well. It's important to keep in mind that the security awareness trainings can be utilized by all employees, and they should be delivered during the new employee training. Other additional training can be handled after the employee is on the job as well. Additionally, there should be a review of acceptable use policies. And the acceptable use policy is going to be important because within security awareness training, the reviewing the acceptable use policy provides for a core understanding of how components that are on the company's network should be utilized. And so the AUP is going to provide a clear, acceptable, and unacceptable use of technology policy. So it's going to define personal responsibilities, such as protecting one's own password, addressing of other high-risk behaviors, which could include security training, handling and sharing of sensitive customer information, the transmission of information outside of the company, and handing of company intellectual property. And so with this in mind, the acceptable use policy is going to be the core document that's used to define how users are responsible for their actions on company devices, as well as establishing clear expectations. And so with this in mind, the AUP is there to identify and highlight any consequences of failing to comply with the acceptable use policy as well. So this policy is meant to be an enforceable document, and it should outline the appropriate disciplinary actions such as termination that would result if a user were to violate the policy set out in the acceptable use policy document.